I bought this poster at the United States Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. in March of '94 and brought it back to my classroom. We were talking about the Holocaust at that time. I showed it to my students. I pointed out to them each of the symbols, what they meant. For example, a French Jew, a German Jew, a Jehovah's Witness. This is the pink triangle that gay people had to wear. And then I said, as a gay person, I would have been forced to wear a pink triangle had I lived then, because I am gay. Well, it was very hard for anyone in 1994. I'm sure there had been other teachers who were exposed as gay or lesbian in Missouri and didn't survive that. In this case, I felt it was really necessary that I make it.
Rodney Wilson not only made it as a teacher, but his efforts to raise awareness and inclusion of LGBTQ+ history has since spread across the world. History Month, that's celebrated through the month of October, that was Rodney, a social studies teacher at Mehlville High School. In fact, he was the first openly gay teacher in the state of Missouri, a significant feat considering how it could have easily ended his career.
If there had been a backlash that had removed me from the classroom, I felt that would be very harmful to all LGBT kids, to all LGBT teachers, to the idea of civil rights and equality in general.
But as word spread of Rodney's coming out, there were many people who strongly opposed the lack of disciplinary actions by the district, as seen in local and national news coverage.
Coming up, could this history teacher be history because he came out of the closet in class?
This is totally
That's right,
inappropriate.
and that was bad taste and bad judgment on the part of the teacher. He should have been reprimanded or maybe fired. I don't know.
A gay teacher speaks out tonight after he's verbally vilified at a school board meeting.
It's not right, and my kids don't like it.
We do not need this in our school.
No wonder our children are ignorant if that's what's being discussed in the classroom.
Public education has embraced one foolishness after another in recent decades, but parents should scream bloody murder at the first sign of a school in their district.
Parents should scream bloody murder.
Scream bloody murder,
If
yes.
this got into school's curriculum, and that just, I mean, how did that feel to hear someone so angry?
To be denounced by a U.S. congressman by name on the floor of the United States House of Representatives, actually now I take as a badge of honor that that happened. But at the time, if I had been aware of it, that might have been a little disconcerting.
Because surely you've had to known this is going to get some negative response from faculty, from families, from the community. I mean, were you prepared for that kind of response?
I don't know if I had really thought much past the actual event, which I had been thinking about for quite some time. I think a teacher needs to have some sense of control in the classroom. And if there's some secret information about a teacher that begins to get out through the rumor mill, for example, that disempowers the teacher. So I felt that it was really important that I control when and how, under what circumstances, that I let that information be known.
And just as there were many people who didn't think it was necessary for Rodney to come out to his high school students, there were just as many who praised his act of courage.
The Mehlville teacher who told his students he's gay gets a tenured job in the South County District.
It's being called a victory for gays and lesbians tonight.
The fact that the guy refers to the fact that he's married is no problem for anybody. There's no difference here. He simply referred to his orientation.
I think Rodney has the right to say he is gay. It is part of our history. It's there. It is so predominant, and most people are so blind and they have such tunnel vision.
It's always a landmark when we take any kind of step towards basic human rights.
But perhaps the most important reaction was from his students. Some even were interviewed in the 1994 Dateline special about Rodney.
Someone started clapping and the whole class just started clapping and saying, "Oh, Mr. Wilson, that was so brave, I'm so proud of how you did that and everything," and everyone was just so proud, and then I was crying and Mary was crying, and I mean it was really great how he did it.
The Missouri Historical Society Library and Research Center houses many of the items Rodney has donated, not only to commemorate him as the first openly gay teacher in the state of Missouri, but also mementos that went into planning LGBTQ+ History Month. In fact, that's what sparked Rodney's decision to come out to his class in the first place, as he hoped History Month would gain publicity. And it did, thanks to Rodney and some dedicated friends.
John Du Bois was one of those dedicated friends who has been collaborating with Rodney ever since they met at Southeast Missouri State in 1989.
And do you remember how Women's History Month was sort of a model, of course, as Black History Month was the ultimate model? And this catalog from the National Women's History Project, do you remember what they had on? You could buy a pencil from them that had a very nifty saying. What was that?
I remember buying a box of them. It said, "Write women back into history." And you and I and our other folks were back to write LGBT people back into history. I think it's important for anybody who is first realizing that they're a member of the LGBTQ community to find their history, not just find their people now, but find their history as well, to understand the past as a backdrop for what we're doing in the future.
Jonda played a key role in editing the proposals, in addition to being on the coordinating council for the first Gay and Lesbian History Month in 1994.
Was it specific to St. Louis, the first History Month?
It wasn't, because he's the only one who was here. He was smart enough and managed to make connections in a pre-internet age to gather people from all over the country for his first coordinating council. So he was here in this area. I was in Columbus, Ohio. Kevin Jennings from Boston. Kevin Booyer from Chicago. He got Jesse Greenman from California.
Rodney Wilson, Sarah Lynn Chestnut, just to get their names into this conversation. With them, we were creating curriculum. We were creating ideas about how you might implement a Lesbian and Gay History Month that October.
We could make it whatever we wanted, so people could kind of just do what they like to do. If they liked film, then they could plan film. If they liked lectures, they could plan a lecture. Have a gay, lesbian, bisexual themed Halloween party. So we just all tried to find institutions and people who could do some work to get those things to happen.
And it didn't take long for the idea to catch on. In 1995, St. Louis Mayor Freeman Bosley signed a proclamation for History Month, and other cities soon followed suit. After about a decade of continually spreading the celebrations of History Month across the country, it then caught wind overseas.
We've since recruited 23 representatives from 16 history months around the world.
How does that feel to have that global impact?
It's great, actually. I thought this part of my life was over, that it had been done 30 years ago, and then now this international committee is creating new avenues of creativity and ways to express this idea, and the idea that we're now sowing the seeds for future history months. Now, in my classroom, that first October of 1994, I wasn't able to do anything. The school district made it clear that I wasn't to participate in that event.
I hope he spoke to you about, or if not, you can certainly read about the NEA, National Education Association, treating it like a hot potato a little bit after first endorsing it. It shouldn't be controversial, but it was. It was definitely controversial.
Well, and it still is today.
It hasn't changed. You know, I was very pleased in Jefferson City last year to find he was honored as a trailblazer in Missouri's bicentennial exhibit in the Capitol, but it was only a few months after I saw artifacts from his starting History Month in our Capitol that a display about Kansas City's LGBT history was removed.
That's something history teaches. It's not always a forward trajectory. There are steps back, and sometimes those steps back are brutal. Now, even though I wasn't specifically to be part of Lesbian and Gay History Month in October 1994, still, I was able to bring things into the classroom when it's appropriate. For example, you can't talk about 1960s social movements, African American civil rights movement, women's movement, Native American movement, Latino movement. You can't talk about those movements without also talking about Stonewall, lesbian and gay history, pride marches, the beginning of an attempt to make oneself and one's community equal in the larger societies. I had students at the time recreate protest posters. Pro and con, all sides of issues,
Oh,
so
wow,
we could have
okay.
a conversation about, at the time, what did people think, pro and con? And why did they have those thoughts? And where have we moved the conversation to today? This place we're at, this library and research center, is a place where we store our memories. And it used to be that in the LGBT community, that we would store our memories in our apartments. So not having a history is a foundation from which one can build a life, build a career, build a community, means you're starting at a deficit. Because the bottom line really is, we want all of our young people to learn to read well, write well, speak well, think well, be part of the conversation, be good citizens, be good community members. And if you're a gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender child and you're in a school in which it's not safe to be those things, your ability to learn to read, write, speak, think well is hindered. So if we believe in the value and integrity of all young people, then we have to practice that.
For Living St. Louis, I'm Brooke Butler.